And next, I mean, maybe the dinosaurs are going to feature in the next talk, I don't know, because Kathryn Ford is going to be telling us about the evolutionary theories of religion.
Okay, I'm going to try and cover some of the most popular evolutionary explanations for religion in 5 minutes, and also hopefully give you a taste of why religion's a really interesting topic to approach from an evolutionary perspective. Now, religion's pretty much a human universal. Almost every society that we know of, there has been behaviour that we would recognise as religious behaviour. But the thing is, religion's actually quite a costly behaviour to engage in. Time spent on religious pursuits is time that could be spent on things that directly increase our Darwinian fitness. For example, farming, hunting, looking for mates, or tending to our kin. And it's not just these time and opportunity costs that religion represents. It's not unusual for religions to encourage people to engage in behaviours that could be actively damaging to our well-being. For example, body modification, which brings with it risks of infection, long periods of fasting, going on long, dangerous pilgrimages. And it's not unusual for religious leaders to be expected to completely abstain from sex, which, from an evolutionary perspective, is basically genetic suicide. So, why is it that something so potentially harmful has become ubiquitous throughout humanity? Well, the evolutionary explanations for this fall broadly into one of two categories. There are adaptionist explanations and byproduct explanations. Now, the byproduct explanations basically suggest that religion hasn't evolved for a specific purpose. It's just kind of come along as baggage. It's like a spandrel of our evolved psychological architecture. So if it is just a spandrel, what could it be a spandrel of? Well, a couple of the suggestions are, one is that we are hyperactive agency detectors. As a really social species, we see evidence of agency everywhere, which is why we see faces in clouds and why we see faces in inanimate objects. But the thing is, we make agency mistakes a lot of the time. So imagine you're walking down the street and you hear a rustling in the bushes and you think, it's a murderer! And then you check and it's just a cat or it's the wind. Your understanding of the situation is updated and you carry on about your day. Another spandrel explanation is that religious ideas are full of what we refer to as minimally counterintuitive ideas. They pull on things that we're aware of and that we know about from the natural world, and we have expectations of them, but they just violate our expectations a little bit. So that's things like talking trees, or flying humans, or virgin births. These are ideas that are familiar enough that we can remember them, but strange enough that they catch our attention. But then, just because an idea catches our attention and we remember it, doesn't mean that we're going to base our lives around it. So then there are adaptionist explanations that suggest that religion has evolved because it solves a reoccurring problem throughout our evolutionary history. One of the really interesting things about humans is that we are incredibly good at working together. Like, for a bunch of primates, we're very good at working with non-kin. And there are huge benefits that come with that. There are loads of things that we achieve as a group that no individual could achieve on their own. But the problem is, when you've got collective action, there's always the issue that you might get a free rider. As somebody who takes a lot of benefit from the group's work without actually contributing much themselves. Which is fantastic for the individual, but really bad for the cooperative individuals in the group. And the more free riders you get, the more unstable the group becomes and everyone suffers. So it's been suggested that religion is kind of like a costly signal. And a costly signal is basically a signal that we give off that's so difficult to produce that it has to contain true information. The same way only a very healthy deer could produce massive antlers. And one thing that humans do that's very difficult to fake is we have emotions. Emotions are really difficult to fake and difficult to control. And one of the things that happens with religion is people get emotional and they can get themselves into religious frenzies or weep in front of iconography. And this helps the group recognise who is genuinely part of their group and genuinely believes the things they do, and helps them spot interlopers. And by having that system, you keep the group cooperative, and you can make sure that as a group you continue to achieve things as a group that you couldn't on your own. Thanks.